The main concept to absorb here is that the direction of motion and the direction in which the agent is facing are separate. The actions refer to the movement relative to the plane, so up, left, right, and down. But the direction of the agent faces is independent of that movement. So we need to keep track of the direction that the agent faces and then somehow link that to the direction we wish to move when the up arrow is pressed. To do that, we're going to need to introduce the concept of a method, a separate set of rules that will be used to handle first-person navigation. If you notice on the bottom of the agent behavior window, there's the method button, the plus method button. We're going to click that, and that produces a new kind of like police tape boundary around the name called untitled. And that's another set of rules separate from the regular while running method that exists for all agents. I'll click on untitled and I'm going to give it a new name and call it first person with hyphen first person navigation. You can name it anything you want, but it's nice to have the names relate to what these methods do. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, and this will be the first rule in the while running method, so I'm going to add a new rule at the very top, so I have to move it up to the very top. And under the condition that I'm in first person, so there's the camera control first person view condition, instead of dropping down and looking at some of the key control rules below this, I will make a message to myself that says, go look in the first person navigation method to figure out what to do. The first rule in there, we're going to handle the same way we do some of the other rules with keys. We'll have a key condition, and I will put that here. And I'm going to work with just the turning motions first. So I'll say if I turn to the left with the left arrow, I want to do two things. I want to keep track of the direction I'm currently facing. In order to do that, we're going to have to use something called an agent attribute, or you can think of it as a variable from a programming language. And there's an action to do that. It's actually the same action. It's two different formats. You can choose either one because we're going to change what's listed in the fields for those. So I'll grab this one, and I'm going to say that I have a new variable name, a new attribute name called direction. And what I'm going to do is if I turn to the left, remember that's a rotation of 90 degrees, I'm going to add 90 degrees to whatever that direction currently pointed to. So if it points to 0, it'll now be 90. If it was pointing to 90, it'll now be 180. If it points to 180, it'll be 270. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say direction, whatever was in the original value of direction is now going to be that plus 90. And if I click and close this, let's think about what's going to happen. First of all, it's no problem when I'm going from north to west to south to east. But let's suppose that I'm at east and I want to turn to the left again. Now I'll be facing north. So the value will now be 360. Well, think of the compass. When you get to 360, you automatically think 0. And from 360, you go to 0, and then if I rotate again to the left, I'll be back at 90. So if you think of the compass or the clock, we're used to having things that cycle. They never get bigger than a certain amount. We call this modular arithmetic. And the way we express that is we say whatever that value is, I put around parentheses, I want it to be modular 360. What that means is it can't be any bigger than 359. If it becomes bigger than 359, I subtract 360 from it and take whatever's left over. I express this with the %, 360. And then, now that I have a direction set, I can rotate to that absolute value that I had in that original rotation. Now it's important to make sure that I set the direction before I rotate to it. Up here, it really didn't make any difference if I rotated and then moved, or moved and then rotated. It's so fast that you probably wouldn't notice that the two are going on sequentially as opposed to simultaneously. But here it's very important. I want to set the direction and then rotate. Again, we want it only to be in the plane of the arena, but now instead of being a number, I'm going to put in direction. So the first thing I will do when I press the key to the left is change the direction to be 90 degrees more to the left of wherever it was, modular 360, so that I stay within the compass, and then I rotate to that direction. I'm going to duplicate this rule twice more and handle it for the other kinds of keystrokes. If I press the down arrow, now what I will do is set the direction to be whatever it was plus 180, because I rotated halfway around, modular 360, and then rotate to that direction. And finally, if I press the right arrow, I'm going to do very similarly, but this time I'm going to rotate 270 degrees instead of 90 or 180. And if that amount exceeds 360, I will reduce it to the point where it's between 0 and 360. So let's go ahead in first person and see what happens. So I'll click play, first person, and now when I press the right arrow, I go to the east. If I press the right arrow again, which is a natural direction I want to turn to the right, I'm now facing south. If I press the right arrow again, I'm now facing west. Right arrow again, north. Left arrow, west, south, east, back to north. I haven't handled the up arrow yet. That's a separate set of rules that we're going to have to use to determine what to do. Let me go back to bird's eye view, and we'll talk next about how do I move according to the direction.